Howdy. I think we're live. Gonna ask the chat, we good? Anyone in here? Make sure we're all up and running. Pardon me for looking away a moment. Let people join in. Hey, I see Ray here. One of these days I'm going to get the chat so you can all see the chat, maybe when you're watching this later, if you're watching a replay, but still learning how to do this. I'm going to give people a couple more moments to get in here. It's been a really busy day. I'd like to say that I'm ready to do this, but I'm not. Like, we're just going to wing it because I've been too busy. That's the upshot of what's going on here. They moved it up so quickly. I'm trying to keep track of everything. God, there's so much going on. They moved it up a month, and it's just nuts. Who's this Anthony Puccio? Who is Anthony Puccio? Sports writer, bylines, Nets Daily. I don't know him. And New York Daily News. Okay. So I'll give him a follow. You can't see what I'm doing there. I'm just trying to pull up his tweet now. Let's get this thing going here. Let's see if I can pull this up so you can all see it. Again, I don't really know who this is myself. It doesn't mean anything. I just don't know him. But this is what he's saying, and let's see if I can pull this up. Oh, I want to thank. I got a little help with the graphics. We're still working through them. Really cool. Little bit of layout help. Let me pull this up real quick. Gosh, this is too much. I want to thank Michael Davis for preparing that for me. I have to figure out how to get the chat in that little window, and there's some issues with scaling and whatnot because we're looking at these we're looking at these Google Sheets. So yeah, that reminds me. Let's get that going here. I'm stalling a little bit to make sure we get a few more people in here. But let me copy the link, and I'll look through the chat in a moment and try to catch up. We're going to kind of go through what happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. And then I will look at questions and try to answer them. Last stream was more of like an open forum. Today we're going to do a little bit more structure, just try to make sense of really, I'm curious. I purposefully didn't go through the numbers so that we could do it together. Normally when these trades go through, or at least the rumors or they're announced or whatever it is, I like to figure it all out. But I figured let's do it together. So we have some issues with the Kings to figure out with Bogdanovich, something called BYC, which we'll talk about momentarily. And the other issue is the hard cap for the Bucks, because if they're getting Bogdanovich, I think I'm saying it right. There's like Bogdanovich and Bojan Bogdanovich. So we're talking about the Bogdan from the Kings. That's problematic. So let's see here. We're going to jump over to this. I'm not going to use these layouts yet for the, let's see, punch. There we go. Still getting the hang of it. I think we're good. Okay, so this is the sheet, and I just posted the link. And so I like to start at scratch, from scratch rather, and go from there. All right, so I'm just going to put this in. Shout at me. This is to the chat. Shout at me if 1, audio issues, or 2, video, anything confusing, etc. All right, so I'll keep track of the chat. I just need a little bit of feedback just to make sure that we're working here. What's up, Max Hoffa? I see a lot of people here. A lot of really cool people. DS, Ray, Garrett, Mark, Asman, Jesse, Rico, Kenneth, Digos, Sravan, Malcolm, Miguel. I hope I didn't miss any. Digo, Garrett, Izzy, Jesse. It's a little blurry. Blurry where? Oh, the sheet might be blurry. I could see that. Let's see what the scaling is. No, it shouldn't be, but let's go a little bigger for now, and we'll make it smaller later. See if that makes a difference. If anyone else is blurry, let me know. Ray and Garcia from the Philippines. Okay, I made it a little bigger. The problem when we go bigger is that it's harder to see things on one page. So still trying to perfect how to do this because we're looking at a spreadsheet basically. All right, so let's take a quick peek before we continue. Make sure this comes up. This is from Anthony Puccio. I hope I'm saying it right. He says, sources around the league believe there's a verbal agreement between the Nets and Rockets that would bring James Harden to Brooklyn and create a super team. So that is from Front Office Sports. Let's follow the link. So again, I don't know this writer, and some people were saying he's legit, and certainly his credentials look legit based on his Twitter bio, and he's a blue check mark. So doesn't mean the information is accurate. People with check marks and people like myself are wrong all the time. Not necessarily wrong, but we're given misinformation. And I also know that, let's see, the deal isn't official, but sources say a deal is in place and two teams have a verbal agreement. It's very possible. I've been asking around to people in the industry, and the question is can the Rockets refuse? Can they just say, no, we're not going to trade you? And the answer is, of course. But look at what happened with the Pelicans when they initially did that with AD, and they didn't trade AD, and that was kind of a disaster, wasn't it? Their season was a complete mess, and then they ended up trading him anyway. Whether they got more or less is subjective. I don't know if they would have gotten more at the deadline than they got. Certainly got a ton from the Lakers, as it is. So the argument would be trade Harden now, and I think they're probably going to have to on some level, but at the same time, maybe they have a solution. I remember Kobe Bryant asked for a trade several years ago with Lakers, the late Kobe Bryant, and that was a very difficult time. I was there. I listened live on the radio when that happened, and it was a little chaotic, and the Lakers sort of held fast and didn't make a move. They explored some. They almost traded him to the Bulls, but they didn't, and ultimately they got a great season from Andrew Bynum until he got hurt, and then they responded with the trade for Powell, and then they were in the finals. And then a year later, they won the finals and then won again. So things do work out. However, I don't like where the Rockets are if you look at where their books are, and we're not going to do that right now. But they're kind of a mess. They do not have a lot, and they are on this list. I probably should have included them. We can look at their trade as well if we have time. Because they are trading, and this is the one I looked at. I just saw briefly, and I didn't look at it all. It was Ariza for Covington. I tell my wife that I'm streaming. Okay, all right. So let's get into it. Putting that away, I don't know what's going to happen with James Harden. We'll dig into that a little bit later. So what do we have? We have where do we even start? There's so much that's going on. It's like ridiculous. So I'm going to start, though, with the Bucks. I'm going to just start with their sheet. In fact, let's go on over here. If I turn, let's take a look at the Bucks together. We'll start at Basketball Insiders. And I recommend that this is where you look for all your salary information. I am working diligently to get it updated as it changes, and we're about to hit a massive change. As soon as we roll over to the next year, it's going to be nuts. We're still at the end of this year, so any trades that are made now, for instance, Chris Paul to the Suns is done. That's a deal. That's executed. That's based on 2019-2020 numbers. Any trades moving forward past, July 1st is what it would normally be. September, the draft is the 18th. I think we go to the 20th. So anything after the 20th is based on future numbers. So if you're going to do a sign and trade for Bogdanovich, that has to be when he's a free agent, and so that's clearly next year's numbers. So they'd be based on this column here, the 2020-21 numbers. But right now we're in this world right here. So if you take a look at their situation, the Bucks spent over the cap this past season. They have this number of players under contract, of which they're trading some of them. They have several free agents, specifically Pat Connaughton's interesting, Sterling Brown, Robin Lopez. I haven't updated that yet. It just came out that he's opting in. Wesley Matthews is reportedly opting out. Kyle Korver, and then also Marvin Williams, I think I heard, is retiring. Let's see, their pick situation. Very interesting. We'll have to get into this because this is what I find problematic in the reports, and I haven't looked. We'll try to identify which picks they're giving. They owe a first rounder, top 10 protected in 2022, which means they can't trade their 2021 pick because of the Stepien rule, which basically says you can't trade 2 future consecutive first round picks. And that's not 100% the letter of the law. You have to have a pick. It doesn't have to be your own pick. But since they don't have any other incoming picks, that's the issue. So they can't trade 2021. And then this pick is protected. It conveys in 2023. So if it's top 10 protected in 2022, it won't go until 2023. And we can't say, oh, well, the Bucks will be better than this, so they won't be bottom 10 teams. So it doesn't matter what practically will happen, what we can predict. It goes by the standings. So it's not until they're officially not a top 10 pick that this conveyance doesn't change, right? So either they're going to give that pick in 2023, but just the possibility that they could give it in 2023 makes 2022, 2023, but then the consecutive year 2024 unavailable. So they can trade 2021, and let's take a look at what they have for 2021. Or rather 2020 rather. They have the 24th pick, and then they have, that's from Indiana. They have sent the 30th pick to the Celtics and the 60th. So they have the 24th pick, so they can send that. And then they are owed a second rounder, etc. Owed second rounder. They owe a first rounder to, the Cavs. So they could do the one pick now, which is 2020. They can't do 2021. They can't do 2022, 2022, 2023. They can't do 2024 because of this. But what they can do is they can do a 2 years after trade, which means that it'll be 2 years after the 2022 obligation. So it would be 2024 unless that pick is delayed, in which case it would be 2025, which then makes it so if you have that kind of language, it makes it so that 2025 cannot be traded because you're trading 2024. And since 2025 can be the conveyance, that means 2026 can't be sent. So therefore, we have 2027. That's my read. I haven't looked at what the reports are. I saw that it was 3 firsts. So to me, it reads like, just looking at their books, I can say, well, they'll trade their Indiana pick this year. They'll do it 2 years after in 2024, which could convey in 2025, unprotected, right? And then they would do 2027. They cannot trade 2027 before the draft. So it has to be executed after the draft because it's one of those finicky things that says it's future first. So literally the moment that the draft is over, it is no longer, not even the draft is over, the pick is made. It is no longer future first. It is literally the rights to a player. I'm taking a quick look at the chat. Does Scott Levine know what he's talking about? That's from Raj. Scott Levine, I know 2 Scott Levines. One of them is a student of SBC, Sports Business Classroom, great guy. The other is my brother. Different last name, but he's my brother. And I've suggested to them to do a podcast, and I don't know why they haven't. There should be the Scott Levine podcast, which is 2 Scott Levines talking about basketball. How does that not exist? I don't know. That's their problem. Let's see. Cleveland will receive a future second from Milwaukee by lifting Asman. I don't know where that comes from, but I literally haven't read everything yet. I haven't gotten the breakdown of the trade because the trade doesn't exist yet. It's just a report. I will eventually see the actual trade details and know exactly because reports, even the best reporters, tend not to be as perfectionist about the details as I need to be to do what I do. I need to know every little beat detail. So that's for Asman. That's from Bobby Marks. That's great. So what Asman is saying, and Bobby's great. I know Bobby personally, and am very fond of him and think he's great for this industry. I love what he does, and I hope that what all of us do, people who put this cap information out there, help make the world a little, or at least the NBA world, a little more clear. So he's saying Cleveland will receive a future second from Milwaukee by lifting the protection on the 2022 pick from the George Hill trade that the Bucks owe them. So what he's saying is they will lift the protection. So this right here, make sure that's visible on the screen. Yeah, he's saying right here, Asman is saying, this is what Bobby said again, I haven't seen it. A first rounder. So the idea would be is to lift the protection so that it guarantees to go in 2022. And by doing that, they still can't trade 2021. They still can't trade 2023, but then they could trade 2024 without question. And then they could trade either 2026 or 2027. So the logic is almost the same. It's still, they're still limited to the 3 picks that way. So interesting stuff. So there's a lot of questions in the chat, and if I start hitting them, then we'll probably lose focus on what we're trying to do here. But let's we're gonna take a look at the Bucks, and now we're gonna jump back over here. Let's see if that worked. Pardon me for looking away. Okay. So in just a moment, let's see here. This should work. Okay. There it goes. Okay. All right, Bucks. So let's take a look at the Bucks. Let's just copy and paste it in. And I'm going to scale it down a little because you're not going to be able to see. So let me know if it gets blurry. We were really pumped up. We're jumping it down to 90. And let's see if 90 will work. All right, so this is the Bucks. And so what we're assuming, let's make this up because we talked about the pick issues. We talked about, let's see. Well, I guess it's the, I'd have to look at the exact details. Let's just go with the assumption right now that this is a trade made later, that it's made in the new year. So we're going to get rid of these numbers here. Normally I would have liked to have prepped a little bit more, but literally just not working. The time is working against us right now. And let me know in chat if something is breaking. So this is where we are. These are their numbers here. I'm going to delete the free agents. We have Sterling Brown. He's a free agent. We'll take him out. Just bear with me for a moment. Okay, so this is the math. So this is our starting point. We'll say he's opting out and he's opting out. Oops. Typo. Okay, so let's go with round 2. Okay, so he's out and he's out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this math. Oh, another thing to note. I believe, and this is problematic. We need to know the exact date of John Lur's last game, but it should have already happened by now. I haven't checked if they've gotten his number, but I believe this will come off their books. I don't know if it has yet. I'm going to take a quick peek somewhere. You know what? I'm not going to be able to get to that right now. So I believe that this will come. John Lur is medically retired, and I believe that his stretched amount will come off their books a year from his last game. And given that we were so delayed based on the calendar, I expect this to happen soon. I don't know if it'll happen in the off season or if it's already happened. This is something I just need to check. It could have already happened and I've missed it. So we'll leave it on for now, and then we'll take it out as a possibility later. So this is, I'll just put an asterisk here. All right, so this is where they are as far as the people. Let's you know what, we might as well just go straight to some of these tweets. Look up Woj. I know he tweeted on. I know Shams tweeted on it. Goodness, there's so much going on. Pelicans are 3 future first rounders. Okay, here it is. New Orleans is nearing completion of a deal to send Drew Holiday for. It's pretty straight ahead, right? So let's go with that for now. So let's jump over to the Pelicans. And not the Pelicans. Yeah, the Pelicans. Drew Holiday. There it is. All right, this is also complicated too. We're going to run into all kinds of complications today. because Drew Holiday has some incentives. I got to find them. I have them. Take a look at Drew Holiday. Okay, so let's take a look here. He is this amount, and we'll get into this a little bit later as far as check the chat here. All right, so just checking the chat to make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, so these are his numbers. So let's cut this year, right? So this is an option. We'll worry about that another day, whether he opts in, whether he extends, all that, we could look at those kind of options. But Drew also has incentives, mostly unlikely and immaterial for cap purposes, significant for hard cap purposes. Okay, so I'll look that up. I don't think I have them on the sheet that I've got here. I have them, I think, in a previous year. Let me see if I have them handy. If I have them handy, I'll pop them in, and if I don't, then we'll look them up a little bit later. But this is going to matter when we get to our latter part of the conversation. All right, take a look. Like I said, there it is. It's a little bit nuts right now. So this is a whole lot of words I'm posting here. He has a more complicated contract than most. Let me, does that all fit on the screen? Kind of. These are the Drew incentives. Come on, scroll down properly. All right, good enough. All-Star. Was he an All-Star last year? I don't think so, right? He wasn't an All-Star last year, right? What's up, Corey? I'm going to ask chat. Drew was not an All-Star last year, correct? So incentives are based on, I don't want to look it up, so I'm asking you guys to help me. Incentives are based on what happened the previous year. Was Drew all first or second D? I believe no. I remember someone. Who was it? He was not an All-Star at any point, and also Drew was not first. I remember who was it? One of the players was saying like it made no sense that he was all D, that he wasn't all D, because he's really well respected by his contemporaries. So no. NBA Finals, no. NBA assist leader, 75%. Was it Redick? I think there were more players who played against him were saying, like, if you play against him, did not win these, no title there, no title there. So I'm not going to look at every single incentive. And what we're going to do is, let me see what the number is. It's limit of 10, 20. It's really, I have to see the upper bound of his money, and I'm going to have to get that in a minute. He has such a complicated set of math here. I have it figured out. Base is 27. Nope, these are old notes on AD trades from last year. Let's see here. So I'll have to look that up elsewhere, but these are his incentives, and basically his number's probably going to be this or close to it, but the hard cap number is going to be as if all the incentives hit, and that's the issue, because they have a hard cap. And the reason that they're going to have a hard cap is because they're acquiring Bogdanovich via sign and trade. So let's start at the beginning. The first trade's pretty straight ahead. We're going to scroll down in a minute. Eric Bledsoe and George Hill. Let's take a look at the math. So how does this work? So let's sum up these two players. Oops. Now, draft picks, when you trade draft picks, they have no monetary value in trade matching. But as you can see, those numbers are dead on. I mean, that's almost a neutral deal. It's actually the Pelicans who have to use a trade exception, a simultaneous trade exception, which is not the trade exception that most of y'all think about. So that's how much money they can bring in. So when they trade Drew Holiday to the Bucks, a simultaneous trade exception is generated momentarily at 125% plus $100,000 of Drew's salary, or it's really 125%, and then you have an extra 100% that you can go over of that exception. So the exception is, we'll just call it 32.8, even though it's, or 32.88, even though it's 32.78. But for ease, we'll go with 32.88 or 8.9 if you want to round. And so then they can absorb with that trade exception the aggregated salary of George Hill and Eric Bledsoe, and then there is no, from that simultaneous trade exception, it evaporates, and there is no year-long simultaneous trade exception. And so that's how the Pelicans are able to take in more salary than what they are sending out via simultaneous trade exception. On the side of the Bucks, they do not get a trade exception. They do not need a simultaneous trade exception. What they're doing is they're bringing back. They're bringing back less than what they're sending out, and so that is absorbed into that. However, there is no, even though they're sending out more than what they're taking back, because they're aggregating players, they do not receive a non-simultaneous trade exception. Does that make sense? Let me know, chat, if I'm confusing you or anything like that. I think we're good. So that's pretty straightforward. It's easy, right? That's the trade. Okay, we don't have to worry too much. Nothing crazy about that. We're not gonna. We talked about the picks. We don't have to go over that much more because it doesn't really affect the math. So now this is post trade. We've got Drew Holiday, and we're gonna replace Eric Bledsoe, and we're gonna take out George Hill. And while we're at it, so nothing is new as far as like there's no hard cap or anything like that. There's no weirdness here. We're going to total up the numbers. They need to get to approximately 14 players, but we'll leave room for 15, and then we'll go actually let's pop out, and again, lure may be off, which we will discuss at the end when we start getting to the hard cap. We have a lot to cover today. I don't know how long we're going to go. Hopefully there'll be some buzz, some trades while we're on stream, so we can process it. All right, Garrett, thank you. He's saying, if the games played goes by percentage of total games, then Holiday hit the games played mark. So the question is, Garrett, did he do the same the year before? Because if he did it the year before, it is considered a likely incentive, and therefore it continues to be likely, but it was already factored into his cap number. I'm guessing it was, but I haven't dissected in a while. I did, I think, a couple years back, but I haven't dissected exactly where Drew is in his incentive package. So I know that most of them are unlikely. Okay, so Drew is in. We have a total. Give it a moment. Punch this in, and then I'll scroll down in a minute. I hope this all fits. And then we have, that's all we need to know so far. We don't really care about a hard cap. We don't care. They are over the tax. They obviously have a lot of missing bodies. So he played 60. Garrett's saying he played 67 games in 18-19. Wasn't that the goal? Garrett, tell me, was that enough for him to have hit his incentive? All right, we'll take a look at that. Okay, so there we have it. So now we need to look at the next trade. Okay, so that's one trade. It's pretty straightforward. Drew Holiday in. In the chat, hit me if I miss something, because I am kind of going by the seat of my pants here. I'm trying to just piece it together. I didn't get a chance to do it last night. I was actually out. Based on what you have there, yes. So Garrett is saying, yeah, so Drew already had some likely. He has some unlikely. His cap number would change based on changes in what was likely. Did he not hit? Those become unlikely. And what was unlikely, did he hit? Are those now likely? Okay, so Milwaukee is landing, and I appreciate, thank you. I'm using Adrian Wojnarowski's tweets. I know that, I think Kevin O'Connor was the first with this, and I know Shams has some great detail on it as well. Shams Charania of The Athletic, but we're just going with Woj right now. I usually mix it up a little bit. So they're trading Dante DiVincenzo, Ersan Ilyasova, DJ Wilson, and then I believe there was someone else coming from the Clippers in that deal. He doesn't mention it here, but let's go and take a look at the Kings real quick. Give me a second to punch it up. And so he said, it's Bogdan, right? But there's one other. So this is where we are with Bogdanovich, which is not necessarily material because this is 2019 and the next year. So he's really a RFA. Let's do this. RFA, previous salary. This matters, by the way. The previous salary matters. In fact, the entire Kings situation matters. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the entire Kings thing in. Oh, for the Bucks. Did I leave out? Well, I left out one thing for the Bucks. One thing I left out for the Bucks is the Pacers first. So we're going to let's just pop it in here as a note. This is on its way to New Orleans. So not a mathematical factor. That would have been in their cap sheet, the Pacers first, but that is not going to be in there. And now with the Kings, let's go back to the Kings. They do have some draft considerations as well. This matters too. Okay, so we're at this season here. And let's just copy and paste here. Bear with me. Like I said, we're flying by the seat of our pants. I would have liked to have prepped some of this, but there just wasn't time. So it was either stream or not stream. Kyle Guy is a two-way. And the Kings. Now, all this matters because, and for Bogdanovich, this is his qualifying offer, which makes him a restricted free agent. But also Bogdanovich, we have his cap hold. Now this is, there it is, previous salary, which is under the EAPS, the estimated average player salary, which is 10 million. Yeah, 10 million even. So this is going to be times 1.9, or is it times, yeah, 1.9, because he is a first rounder, but he's not rookie scale. Had he been rookie scale, he would have been a different number. Just checking my text here. Nothing crazy. Okay, so this is his cap hold. It is. So we're just trying to figure out some of these things for the Kings because there's an issue called base year compensation. That is an issue with Bogdanovich in trading him. That's going to screw up the math. Bogdanovich, CH. Stands for cap hold. I'm going to make that a color purple. Too bright? Let's go with the darker purple. There you go. If you're colorblind, let me know. And if there's anyone colorblind in the chat. Okay, it was Justin Jackson. That's right. Wasn't Justin Jackson no, is it Justin James? Justin James, right? Because Justin Jackson was already traded. That's from DS. He's saying, so the reported, so its pad is saying that the reported figure is 14.65 million. I don't know what we're gonna reverse engineer it. So I don't know, but we're gonna come up with a range that works, or we're gonna do our best to come up with a range that works. So this is let's see. Let's put a counter here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yipes. Don't want those to be dollars. Okay. Still learning how to use. I usually use Excel, so this is still a bit of an adjustment. Okay. So what matters for the Kings, we're not worried about the Kings and their ability to get to 15 players or 14 players in a full roster. But what we are worried about or concerned with is their cap space. So let's leave a little room, and we're going to go total. Just leave a little extra room just in case. This is the total. This is the salary cap. Copy that in. And then this is the under over. So they are over the cap based on these numbers so far. I'm going to assume that Jabari Parker opts in. This is a Q mark. Has anyone heard anything on Jabari? Is that announced or anything? Has that come out? What's up, Hugo? I'm going to assume that he opts in. It would obviously help them if he opts out. He did opt in. Yes, he opted in. He opted in today. Okay, great. So I'm trusting the chat, but regardless, assumption he opts in. So we are going to turn that to black. Okay. Okay, so there we have it. Now, Bizalica, I want to say Bajelica, but it's Bizalica. He's part of this trade. So let's look up here and who else is in any of these trades? Is it just yeah, let's pull up Shams here as well. Give a little love to Shams, who's great at what he does. Bielitsa. I think I'm saying it right. I had to learn it. There it is. So thank you, chat, and you are correct. So Kings forward Jabari Parker will exercise his, etc., etc. Let's see. Was there anything with anyone else being traded from the Kings, or is that it? That's it, right? So I don't have to worry too much. Like Bielitsa is not traded at this point, right? Just these two dudes, right? So Justin James. So we've got Kyle Guy. I'm just going to put a note. Two-way. He does not count against the cap. So we're just going to pop him in here. Okay, so cap holds. We're going to look at cap holds. What other free agents do they have? Well, they have a bunch. So they would need to renounce the rights to... Let's just pop these in real quick so we have them handy. I'm not going to go over the math for each one. And that's Bazemore. They have Len. Wow, they have quite a few. Len, Farrell, Giles. These are actually... This is a declined first. Yogi is early. Yeah, these are early bird. EB, early bird. I believe Kent is full. Yeah. Okay, so they also have these cap holds. So here's the issue. Let's kind of focus on what the problem is. Oops. There was a problem. Okay. Just trying to space this. Okay, so the issue is this. This is... We're just going to go BB. Previous salary. If the Kings are over the cap, then if BB gets a raise of more than 120% via his rights, in his case full bird, then he is BYC. BYC used to be more of a thing, and it was something that used to last for a period of time, and they've changed the rules. It only exists now. It does in the form that it does. It only exists now in sign-in trades, and so he is only half of his outgoing salary counts for the Kings, or his previous salary, whatever is more. So, for instance, say BB gets 20 million. He would count as 10 million for the Kings in trade, but 20 million to the Bucks. So you see the issue there is that there's an inherent, some people will call that poison pill. Do I have Bogdan's salary entered twice? Yeah, I do actually. Thank you. I knew something looked a little funky. Let's clean that out. Okay. Yeah, I knew they were over. Here, there's. Okay, thank you for that. That was Asman. Thank you. All right, so we have Harrison, we have Corey, we have Bogdan, Bogdan, Marvin, Bizalitza, Jabari, Fox, Buddy, Rashawn, Justin James, and we have the Kings first. They also would have these additional cap holds that would keep them well over the cap. They're at 117. If it mattered, I would put them in. It doesn't matter. They're over, period. So if they want to get under the cap, so the way to avoid this BYC thing is to get under. To do so, they need to get under the cap by, the trick is that you can't get rid of Bogdanovich's number. It will be replaced by his salary. But say his salary was 14, which was reported, or 16. Let's say they give him this exact number, 16.20, whatever. If we take out Bizalitza, they're at 109. They're still over. Plus, we have some cap holds, some roster charges, right? There would be a roster charge of 898,310. Not going to explain every little thing, but this would also be a roster charge here. So this is the Kings getting under the cap, or failing to do so, right? So let's say that they pay him $13 million in sign and trade. Okay, so they're under 13.5. Oops, missing a zero. So that's like the ballpark of what they can do to get under the cap and not worry whatsoever about base year compensation. So it is doable. It's tricky. These guys would be all renounced to get under the cap if that was the path. So the challenge is you can't take off Justin James. Asman, what we're doing, he's saying someone quoted 14.65. So what we're doing is we're walking through it. I'm not trying to figure out the number yet. What we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out, can they avoid BYC? The answer is yes. So at least that option exists. That's the first question. Can they get under? Now, the next question is do they have to get under? Can they make the deal without BYC? And we're going to go over that in a moment. So the first question is, can they? And so the answer is, so far, we're finding yes. James still has to be on their books. The new number for Bogdanovich would replace his cap hold. So if it was 13.5, and they renounce everybody else and waive Bizalitza, Jabari opted in. That doesn't help them. And so Bazemore, Len, Pharrell, Yogi, Harry Giles. I left out Corey Brewer because he doesn't count. He was a substitute player under the odd rules of this last year. Substitute. Let me punch that in. Punch that in the wrong line. Here it is. Okay. So this is what Corey Brewer made. And he was a substitute. So he doesn't count. J.R. Smith does not count for the Lakers, etc. All right, so we're going to have to wrap this part up. This is the Kings under the cap. They can do it. Let's take a look at where we don't care about the Kings under the cap. We're not even interested in any of that. We're accepting there's BYC, and we're going to do the math, right? So now we're looking at the actual trade here, right? So let's put in BB, and we'll put a question mark there. And we'll do sum. This won't make any sense yet. Okay, pop that up here. Okay, so this is what. So if the Kings are over the cap, then this is the BYC issue. So if he gets 20 million, it would drop down to 10. This is the issue that we're saying. Okay, we'll embrace that. They're over the cap. They're going to give him more than 120%. His outgoing is going to be half of what his incoming is. So we're going to have an unbalanced matching. So we're going to do Kings out. We're going to do Bucks in. And we're going to do Kings in. And we're going to do Bucks out. So the trade is, let's take a look here. think it was right here. The Bucks are trading Dante DiVincenzo. I think, didn't I put the Bucks at the top, right? Didn't I? Dante DiVincenzo, Ersan. Was it DJ Wilson? The Bucks are trading Ersan, DJ Wilson. I think that's it, right? Let me know if there are any other names in there. So let's take a look. Okay, so this would be under the line, the column Bucks out, right? Okay, let's take a quick peek at the chat. Okay, so let's total that up. Now there is an issue here as well. Ersan, let me see if he's, I think he's fully non-guaranteed. I'll double check that in my notes. Don't want to go by memory as much as it's tempting. Yeah, 0. Okay, so the issue becomes how much guaranteed. They don't have to guarantee the full amount of his salary. They can guarantee some of it. They can guarantee all of it. We're going to assume for the moment that they guarantee all of it. And so then what we get to is the padding is going to be $5 million. So the Bucks can take in this much if EI is fully G. Okay, if Ersan Ilyasova is fully guaranteed, we're going to assume that that happened, and we're trying to figure out the most that they could have brought in. So the Bucks out, that's how much they can take in. What are the Bucks taking in? We don't know, but what we can do is we can reverse engineer it. One question before I do that. Let's take a look at Justin James and make sure I understand his contract. Okay. Quick note. Justin James is at the minimum, but he is on a 3-year deal. So he is not a minimum contract. It's not the money, it's the years. A true min contract is no more than 2 years. You can just trade minimum contracts back and forth. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to aggregate. If Justin James was a true minimum contract, the Bucks could just take him and not have to worry about matching salary. However, it's not the case. He is a 3-year deal. Doesn't work. I'm going to take a quick peek. Why don't we actually jump over here real quick? We're going to just take a quick peek. Do the Bucks have any trade exceptions? The answer is no. Okay. Do the Kings have any trade exceptions? Why don't I see? There they are. Suns, Sacramento. There you are. Any trade exceptions? Ah, they do have a trade exception. So this is I haven't updated their date yet. That still is a live trade exception, even though it was February 6th. So we're going to jump back here. Okay, so we do have a trade exception that could factor in. Okay, so is there anybody on the Bucks that is making less than that trade exception? We can add 100,000. So there is no one who's making less than 2.7 or more. Yeah, no one's making 2.77 or less. So this doesn't help us. Okay, but we needed to check these things. So let's go back to the Bucks in. So what's happening here is they are taking in this. They're taking in BB. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to use a formula. We're going to go equals this divided by 2, which is going to fail, right? So let's go with something simple. Let's go, I don't know if it's simple. Let's do this. Total equals, let's do this. Test total, or let's do max total. And we'll just make it equal that, right? And then we'll do max total 1. Just reverse engineering here. Okay, let's do equals sum Let's just do some of that. Okay. And this is going to be equal to this minus that, except we didn't do the padding. So let's do the padding. Hold on a second. Let me get this. Let me double check what's going on here. Any new, no new trades? No new trades? Okay. I'm skittish. All right, let me clean this up a little bit. Let's make a little more room. So, right. So the most the Bucks can take in is this minus that. Okay, there you have it. So most BB can get. Okay, and if you know, so what we've got is we have Justin James. And these were just little things to help me figure it out. At that money, BB Bogdanovich at 18 whatever, that equals the most that the Bucks can take in under the assumption that Ersan is fully guaranteed. So now we need to go to the Kings out, and this is what we have. We have Justin James, and then the Kings out is 9-0. So this, we're going to pay special. This won't update later. And his previous salary. So this is more than previous salary. So is the outgoing for Kings. Make sense? Let me know if there's anything confusing here. All right, so we have the Kings out and we have the Kings in. The Kings are taking in, I think I need another column here. The Kings are basically doing the exact same thing here. Make sure that got the formula. Okay, and then if we pad that, so the Kings out is the padding, right? So padding, in this case, it's just 5 million. Okay, so the way that trades work is, and we can go to Larry's FAQ on this. I got permission from Larry, so we can look at this now. 175%. So if we take a look at question number 86, this is a handy dandy little cheat sheet here. If a team is sending out up to 6.533, the matching is 175% plus 100,000. If they're sending out 19.6 and up, then it's 125%. If any of the teams are over the if the team is over the tax, in this case neither, then it's only 125% regardless of this band. We are for both teams in this middle one, 6.5 to 19.6. So it's just a simple $5 million padding. All right, that's Larry Kuhn's FAQ. The link is at the top of the Excel sheet, or that of the Google sheet. And in case you're missing it, Google sheet. Okay, so in the case here, we have the Kings sending out 10.5 because of the odd number with the BYC. The most they can bring back is 15.5. The Kings are taking in 14.6, so they're kosher, they're good. The Bucks can take in up to 19.6 if Bogdanovich is getting 18 million, and the Bucks out can take up to, so we're perfect. So this is the upper bound. So based on reports, I have the max dollar for Bogdanovich at 18,074,459, assuming that Ersan Ilyasova is fully guaranteed. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what happens with the Kings at this point. We found a way to get them under the cap and make it work, but they don't need to do that. And since they don't need to do that, they can keep the rights to Bazemore, Len, Yogi Ferrell, Harry Giles. And then would there be any sort of trade exceptions for them? So not looking good off the top, because the only way they could get a trade exception is if they traded Justin James separately, and the most that they would get back would be the 1.75 plus 100. So they can take in up to 2.7, and since none of those players work, they have to aggregate James and Bogdanovich together. So I don't see the Kings getting a trade exception because of how everything is being aggregated together. Actually, let's take a look. The Bucks might be able to get a trade. Well, I don't think they can. We're going off of this number, right? The actual number may be less. But let's take a look. If we sum up just these two, give me a moment and I'll scroll. Right? If we sum up just these two, and then we add the $5 million, you see that we're not at that number. So it is possible if the Bogdanovich number, it doesn't matter if the Bogdanovich number, we're looking at the max case. In the max case, no, there's no trade exception. We'll get back to that later. DS says it doesn't really matter what happens with the Kings at this point. It's funny. Taking Vlade out of the picture, I thought the Kings were always a wild card, and losing Vlade, I'm curious to see how they act, what their deal is. Chris Chu says, is the $9 million the cap hold? No, for Bogdanovich. That is 50% of his outgoing salary. So because he's BYC, base year compensation, because he's getting a raise of 120%, it's all spelled out up here, then only half of his outgoing salary counts. And so this is actually a formula. You can look in the Google sheet itself. I have the link. I just posted it. It's half of his actual salary. So there are two sides of this coin, right? We have the Kings side, but really our focus is on the Bucks. So the problem for the Bucks, and this is where we're going to get into a deeper conversation. Let's copy this down. Is how much can they pay? So what we've got is we've got Ersan out. We've got DJ Wilson out and DDR out, right? So popping the and also Drew Holiday is in. So I think we've accounted for all the trades. I think we just need to bring in Justin James, and then we are at Bogdanovich max. It's not like his let's do trade max. It's not like his max that he could possibly get, but in this math and this assumption, we're going with 18074,459. Okay, so this is really the issue here. So now this sign and trade triggered. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that the most that the Bucks can spend, hard cap, most, scroll a little bit, the Bucks can spend. So this would be available money equals this minus that. So at that number for Bogdanovich, they have 13 million left to spend on the rest of their roster. However, now we're getting into the issue with incentives are an issue. So let me see if I can get that. Give me a moment. I'm gonna have to do this off stream. You know what I should do? I don't know. I could pull up another screen or something like that. I don't know. I forgot to say this. The music at the beginning is my wife. You know what? In fact, I'll pop that up right now. All right. So just take a listen for a moment while I pull up some of my stuff. This is my wife. She is a musician, and so if you like beats and music and you're Thanks for the patience. Can't show everything on chat, unfortunately. Some of my information is privileged. Okay, but this is the figure. This is the most that Drew can possibly get via incentive. It doesn't matter if he won't reach these. There may be it may be less technically if we factor in if I think about it. I'm leaving something out here, but if we factor in what he 100% cannot reach, it probably decreases. So we may be ultimately off. I'd have to go through the numbers, off by a little. We're going to use our best estimate, and I'd put these at the top. So for instance, he did not receive MVP in these years, right? So he did not receive this one. So this is, let's see. He could be an all-star this season. He could be this. He could be this. He could be this and this and this. He can't be that. He can be that. He can be that. No, he can't be that because we're not in that season yet. But these are, I don't think these are all compounding. I think some of these are combined. So it's going to be a little tricky. So he can win that. He can win that. He can win that. I think. No. Well, yes, this is possible. This is possible. So there, we're not gonna know the exact number, but some of these will pop out. But we're gonna just stick with, for now, for the sake of argument, these are forgotten. This is what we left out. No, okay, it's there. Okay, cool. All right, so what we'll do is we'll just go for the sake of argument with 29,897,778. This may be slightly less. 28 mil, roughly. I'd have to double check. Like I said, we kind of went through that, and I just on stream I don't have the wherewithal to check all that, because it's how his incentives compound. There are limits. So as you can see, we just ate up some of that potential space. How we doing, chat? Still with me? All right. Just making sure we didn't lose anybody. Okay, so the problem is how do you fill out the rest of this roster, right? So if we say that they get a bunch of veterans, vet men, and well, let's actually take a look here while we're at it. 1920. Give me a second. Milwaukee. Their own free agents include these folks here. So it doesn't matter, who's retiring, who's coming back. But let's say they just load up with a bunch of vet mins, and they go to 14 players. These vet mins are 1620564. In chat, how we doing? I haven't seen any activity for a minute here. Let me know. Hit me back. Make sure I didn't lose anybody. Or lose the whole stream. We are almost... Okay. Okay, good. I see a chat. For a second there, I thought I lost everybody. No. So for hard cap purposes, we're talking about the actual number. Not the actual number. We're looking at the vet min, the 2-year vet min. All right, so let's fill it in. And you see very quickly why we've run into an issue here. We're going to assume they have to get to 14 players. We have... I've learned from doing this that there's... I don't know how long the lag is. I'm talking and you're chatting, but I'm not getting it in real time. Like, I'm talking, and then I pop it into the chat, and then I think 20, 30 seconds have to go by, and then... So it's not 100% perfect communication. So still trying to get used to this YouTube stuff. So, but it's been great so far. All right, we're about an hour in. and I want to get off of the whole. Actually, yeah, I forget when we started. We started a little bit after 12, so yeah, a little bit over an hour in. What I want to do is I want to try to wrap up the Bucks situation and then run through all the other ones as quickly. We won't spend as much detail on them. But here's the problem. Okay, so if Middleton and Giannis and Drew and Brooke and his brother, they're not going to get rid of him, and then they keep Justin James. Yes, they can trade Justin James, but it doesn't help to, right? Because you have to replace him with someone making 1.6. Now, there is another quick question. Jump over here. Take a look at the Bucks. I think we established that they traded their first, right? They traded their 60th, didn't they? To the Pelicans already. So Pelicans, yeah. So they do not have a second. Jump back here. So, okay, here's another question. A lot of questions. Do they have any unsigned players who are draft picks who they can put in? The answer is yes, but these dudes are old players. This guy was drafted, 25 years ago and 26 years ago. So safe to assume they are not going to join in. So they can't do like a rookie minimum for those guys. Let's say they did do a rookie minimum, like an 898, 310 rookie min. The challenge here is that the rules will push this number up for hard cap purposes to this anyway, because they don't want to incentivize teams to not sign veterans and to avoid the tax hard cap by signing guys in their first year, second year. So it doesn't say, oh, well, you could do like a bunch of rookies, right? If they were draft picks, it would be fine, but they don't have any. So if you did that, you're like, okay, well, they did it, right? They're under the hard cap. The answer is no, they didn't. You can't do that, or you can, but the actual number on the hard cap will be that. So there may be some variability here in two factors, right? Lure coming off. So let's do this. Say this is actually 28 mil, just ballpark. Let's say that some of those incentives can't be reached because they're based on the past. And let's say that Lure is removed in time for the off season to be completed. So before December 1st. Let's pop him off there. Okay, so now we're sort of in business. So they can do more, right? They can do a team with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players and a bunch of min guys. But now the challenge is, and still have a little bit of room to spare. We don't know the exact figures. We're not going to get them today, but we're going to have a ballpark. And so if Lure comes off, they can start to get access to, let's do because they do have their biannual. And they do have, the biannual. Try that again. And they do have their mid-level. The challenge will be spending it. So if we punch this in here, so let's, because I like to give people the chance to come back and follow along. I don't like to write over what we're doing so that if someone is watching this at a later date, let's assume they don't use their biannual, but they do use their full mid-level. Now we're back running into an issue, right? Okay, so they're not even going to 15 players. And so maybe they don't pay Bogdanovich this much. So because it's just too much and they can't flesh out the rest of the team because this is this is illegal. And we're making a few assumptions here. So let's go back here. We're going to just copy this. We're almost done. Oh, quick reminder while we're at it. I probably should say these things earlier. If you could check out, it's at the top here. I should recommend that you check out me on Twitter, @Eric Pincus. If you need to reach me via email, there's my email address. And there was one more thing that I want to do, and I probably should have done this way earlier. We're going to invite everybody here to the Discord. Like I said, we were sort of rushed today. It's free agency doing it. Okay, got the invite. This Discord invite is available for 24 hours. I have the wrong link here. I popped that in. Okay. It is only good for 24 hours from 1:30 p.m. So this would be till 1:29 p.m. Pacific on 11/18. That's where I just, if you want to ask these kind of questions, you can just chat away. When I'm not streaming, we've got a little community building up. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. At some point, I am going to close it to newcomers and tie it to my Patreon, which is at Eric Pincus, which I would love to get. I have a few subscribers, just getting that started. But if not, if you like what you're seeing and you have a little bit of money, a few bucks, lots of bucks, thousands and thousands of bucks, and you want to send something to me, that'd be great. Means the world to, of course, my wife and my kids and all that, because we're trying to make do in this complicated world right now. It's a difficult time, as we all know. So if you can't and you don't have the means, please just, the views, sharing the video does everything. But if you have a little bit extra money and you want to thank me for my time, that'd be awesome. At Eric Pincus on Venmo or at Patreon. Let's see. Also, the music at the front, and as I played in the middle when we paused for a moment, that was my wife Dorothy. So the Spotify link to her music is in the description. And then my daughter Juliana did the video, or not the video, the graphic. Although, what was the other question? Oh yeah. Subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'm still getting used to these YouTube terms. Okay, so Corey's saying, how many second rounders can a team buy? There's a limit to how much money that teams can spend, but they can buy as many as they want. Obviously, there are limits to how many players you can have on a roster. All right, so we're going back down here and taking a look here, right? So now, hopefully, these formulas tracked. So what is, I guess the question would be, what is the lower bound? I don't think there would be a real issue. So let's say the Kings are sending out below. So let's see. Let's go with this. Let's assume the Kings are sending out less than. Let me get the number. Need to find, but there it is. So let's assume they're sending out less than this times 2. Less than 17,058,772. Then the outgoing number for BB is going to be his previous salary of 8,529,386. Okay, so what we're assuming here is, let's just throw in 12 million below the reported number. So this would no longer be 6 million. This would just be plugged in 8,529,386. Okay, so the Kings are sending out this amount, and the Kings are taking in 14,592. So the issue is that they need to send out enough. Let's give this a little bit of formatting to be able to acquire this much salary. So it doesn't necessarily matter how low they go, as long as they're paying above 8.5 million to take in what they're taking. The Bucks taking in this case 12 million. They can take in let's see that. Let's just do true total, or let's just do sum. Oops. Those 13. So they can take in up to 13.5, and then in this case the Kings are sending out 15 million. Bucks in, so they're taking in 13.5. They're sending out. There it is. Okay, so they can take in. They're fine, right? They're taking in up to 20 million. So there's no issue here in what they're taking in. The Kings taking in 14 million, and they're sending out. So this works as well, right? The out has to be greater than the in. Especially, specifically we're including the padding, right? So this number, Kings out, needs to be bigger than the Kings in, and it is, as you see right here, right? So there, and then for the Bucks, really we're not tight, is what I'm saying. Like, it now becomes a question of how much does Bogdanovich agree to. So there is a bottom. It just doesn't really factor into the math. The question is, does DJ Wilson need? DS is asking. DJ Wilson is in the deal. Like, if you take out DJ Wilson, then the most they could take in is 10, and they're taking in 13. So yeah, DJ Wilson does need to be in there. Well, I guess it depends on how much, right? So that's assuming 12 million. So if we're assuming 12 million, then absolutely. If you go low enough, then no. I mean, if you're paying Bogdanovich 8 million or so, then no, you wouldn't need DJ Wilson. But obviously that's not agreeable to the player, right? So the range can be 12 million. It could be a little bit lower than 12 million. But it really could be even a lot lower. But we'll just assume that let's write it down. We're going to assume he doesn't go out for less than 12 mil. And that's probably inaccurate. It's probably not true. He wants more. But we said what the max was, right? The max was BB most. But I'll scroll up in a second. But the Bucks have trouble fleshing out the roster. Okay, scroll up a little bit. So that's kind of our range. So let's go 12 million. But this is a soft number. Soft number. The numbers can work if it's less than that, but we're going with that. Let's see. Kings out. 15 million. Yeah. So because of there's a floor where as long as he's not getting less than 8.5, we're totally good. So the numbers are pretty loose on that. So, but where should he be? And we're going with a couple of assumptions, and some of them may or may not be true, but we're going to stick with, this is sort of an assumption number, and this is an assumption. Well, let's go down here. Lure coming off is an assumption. And so they want to use their mid-level. And so now let's punch in, I'm going to scroll up real quick. What was the reported number? It was 14 something. So we have a range, but what it sounds like is, at least via chat, I'm scrolling up. Someone had said what Bobby Marks had posted. Anyone have it? 14 something? There it is. It's Pat. Reported figure on Bogdan is 14.65 via Bobby Marks. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in 14.65, 1, 2, 3. Hold on a second. Excuse me. There it is. Okay, so this is the Bobby Marks reported number. Okay, so let's take this. Bear with me. And we're punching in 14.65, 1, 2, 3. Oops. Yep. Okay. This is Bobby Marks' number. Okay. So as we see, the Bucks are taking in, we can just delete these, 16.1. The Kings are sending out, for them, 10 million, taking up to 15. They're taking in 14. Actually, so no, this would be half. But half of that is, so here, let's punch that in here. Half of previous salary is greater So we use that figure for the Kings. I think we're almost done, at least with this part. And then we'll just run through some of the other trades and just talk about them and do some Q&A and wrap the stream. So there we have it, right? So 1465, it's that number. They can take in up to 15. They're taking in 15. For the Bucks out, they can take in up to 19.5. They're taking in 16. Let's see if there are any potential trade exceptions. So can they get to this number? If we go sum. So what they can do is they can take in BB at 14650, 1, 2, 3. We just, yep, so they can take that in. That works. Which would mean they're trading DJ Wilson separately as far as a microtransaction. Doesn't really matter. Teams are allowed to break these into math however they'd like. So in theory, these two would be traded. So it'd be one part of the trade. One part of the trade for the Bucks. And the difference here, this would be a non-simultaneous trade exception lasting a year. So we don't know the final numbers, but this is my guess, just based on what we've done, that they'll end up with a $3 million trade exception if Bogdanovich is at this number. We're trusting Bobby, and I'm sure it's sourced. It's possible Bobby reverse engineered it a different way and came up with that number. I don't know. It's really, the issue becomes this. Okay, so what we've done is we've established the math. We know it works for both teams. We see there's a trade exception, and this is really the focus here. So they have they're spending the full mid-level, and they're filling up to 14 players, and they are still over the hard cap. So still doesn't look great. Still doesn't quite work. So it's possible that that Bobby number is still too high. And this is assuming that Lure is off, right? Let me make sure my math is right. So yeah, and then so we're taking off Lure. I don't know the exact number on Drew. We're using a pared down number slightly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mid-level. So they don't have to use the full mid-level. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're stopping at 14. We're not going to 15 players. We have Larry Sanders. We have the hard cap. Okay, so there's no way to lower this unless they trade for a player who's a draft pick and sign that player. Let me catch up to the chat. Okay, so the question is can you, yeah, that's a good question. Let's take a look. This is from DS. He's saying we might be able to do it a little differently. Ooh, wait, why do I have this twice? Something went wrong here. Have I been always using that? No. Okay, fix that. Okay. Can we do this instead? Equals sum. And then we pad that plus 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's the problem. The idea is, what if you didn't do Ilyasova? You did Ilyasova for Justin James. Could you get a bigger trade exception? The answer is sure, but that would limit to Ilyasova to that figure. Not Ilyasova, Bogdanovich. So this would be BB at this figure. Too low? Okay. So I don't think so. Let's take a look here. So 1465 doesn't work great. I have to double check a few figures. It's Pat is asking, can you break Emily into multiple players? Of course you can. They could do like a $5 million player and then a 4-2, whatever. I'm not going to punch that in, but yeah, of course. So still a little tight. So I feel like that Bogdanovich number is either correct and they can't use this. So let's say that they can use 8 million. Yep. So pretty much the most they can use roughly of their MLE. And we're stopping at 14 players. So you can see that the Bucks are potentially going to have an issue if the number is correct. So obviously if you drop this number down to 13 million or 12 million, it's a lot easier, right? Because now you can use the full mid-level and flesh out the rest of your team. This is the issue with a hard cap and why sign-in trades are problematic. And at the first glance I saw this happening, I'm like, whoa, is that accurate? Other factors, exactly what is Drew's potential incentivized? I need offline, I can calculate that. I'd have to really look over his incentives more closely because I just have a summary. I don't have it broken into how it affects each year, and there are some maxes. So we used a slightly lower number than the potential max, but I think that's accurate. We're in the ballpark, and we're assuming that Lure comes off. And it would be off because the team has to have a certain number of players by a certain time, so to start the season. So these are the kind of the issues. So yes, they can pay him that amount. We don't know for sure. So I think we've hit this topic as deep as we're going to hit it. I started, I think, around 12:15. So we're about an hour and a half in. And so I can't spend the rest of it in as great of detail. Let me take a quick look at what I titled this stream here. So I want to make sure I go true to our advertising here. We talked the Bucks and the Kings, Pelicans, Suns, Lakers, Thunder. So we've talked Pelicans. We talked Kings. We didn't talk Pelicans in depth. We didn't talk Thunder or Lakers. So what I'm going to do is just take a quick peek and run through them real quick. We're going to go to Lakers, and do we have answers yet on Avery? Is that official? The big question for the Lakers question is Avery and JaVale. Do we know yet? Read their options. But if we assume that, let's see what the last thing I have is this. AD, Den. Okay, I think I punched this in. I do not. I have to double check this to make sure it's accurate. I don't remember I'm just copying and pasting from my workbook. So this would be re-signed. This would be traded. This would be Kuz, Caruso, THT, Avery opting in, JaVale opting in, full MLE, KCP, very cheap in my opinion, based on just based on market. This is via non-bird. This is via non-bird. These are mins up to 15. Luol Deng, assuming not taken off. This is how the Lakers would use their full mid-level. If they were to keep the Markieff, keep Dwight, JaVale opts in, Avery opts in, and they fill up to 15 with minimum players. The hard cap, they're right up against it, but legal. Okay. More real, well, let's not, I don't know what the realistic, but let's say that you replace Avery with a minimum, Avery out, and let's say that you replace JaVale with a minimum. Traded or opted out. I think I had a typo somewhere in there. There it is. Now, oh, you know what? This didn't go to total. Bear with me, folks. We're just going to go as quickly as we can. I don't want to stream terribly long. Okay, so that's legal. Give me a moment and I'll scroll up. Just plug in the formula. And I'm not going to assume that Deng is off under any circumstances during the off season. If it comes off at a later date, sure. Ooh, and this is off as well. Okay. So now let's put in KCP at a closer number to what I think he'll get. I don't, 1, 2, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3. This is via Fulbird. Okay. Still legal. So if Avery and JaVale are gone, The Lakers do have the ability to use their full mid-level, pay KCP. We're assuming no Rondo, no JaVale, KCP. Avery. So the Lakers, this is a common question. With the Schroeder traded for, really, can they use their full mid-level? The answer is yes, even paying KCP 12.5. Can bring back Markieff and Dwight at their non-bird numbers, fill out to 15, stay under the hard cap, use their full mid-level. Let's see if they can use their BAE as well. That's, 263? Let me make sure I get the right number. There it is, 362. There it is. Let's say they use their BAE, replacing a minimum player. Still legal. BAE. Biannual exception. So the Lakers can sign a player at 3.6, can sign a player at 9.3, can pay KCP 12.5. Make sure you can see all that. So the Lakers do have some flexibility. It is entirely predicated on these dudes right here, flat out. Because you add in $5 million for Avery at $5 million. That's not the exact number, but just seeing right off the bat, that's illegal, right? So now the money needs to come out of KCP, or it needs to come out of the mid-level. But I guess for an example, and we'll wrap up the Lakers in a moment. And I will do Q&A, so don't worry, chat. Let's say that let me make sure I get the right numbers. They're right above, aren't they? Well, I'll get them from here, off screen. Avery and JaVale. So let's say that it is JaVale in this case. Wow, the screen just changed size on me. Check the screen. Oh, I don't know. Bear with me. Copy and paste is not working well. JaVale, put him back in. Opted in. Okay, so in this case, we are illegal. So now we are losing the biannual. And now we're legal. So it is possible that JaVale stays. They still use their mid-level, lose the biannual, have everything else that they want, right? Or if you punch in Avery, let's just do it this way in case someone looks at it again later. JaVale instead, JaVale out, let's say via trade, and Avery in. We are now illegal, so we're paying $12 million, and we are barely legal. Now, KCP has some incentives, so we have some issues. I need to double check this. I have his incentives. See here. Now, I don't have the ability to dig into this deeply. Give me a second. It's loading. There it is. Okay. Nope. I have it. It's not where I thought it was. Okay. Also, Schroeder has incentives. So we have a slightly incomplete puzzle. So what I need to do is look into that. Schroeder has the player's name to, if he plays, so Schroeder, if he plays 65 games, regular season, and the team plays in the first round of the playoffs, player shall be entitled to $1 million if he's named to an all-star team, or $500,000 if he's first, second defensive team, all defensive team. So 1-5, 1-5, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. Bear with me, and I'm going to check in on the chat, and we'll try to wrap up some of this. He has another incentive, playoff incentive. In the event each player plays in at least 65, he has to play in 50%. Okay, so by being traded to the Lakers, in theory, this could have triggered. If a team plays in the finals, he'll get $250,000, and if he's in the championships, if they win the championship, another $250,000. Those don't become likely by his trade to the Lakers because he has to, by the language, play in 50% of the playoff games to have that trigger. So it doesn't change his number, but his number does change. 500, 1, 2, 3. So when we start doing this, and I realize we probably should have done this before. See, every time I think it's like, oh yeah, this is simple, and then we'll just run through it quickly. That doesn't exist in this line of work, flat out. So Schroeder's number, I believe, is actually 17 with incentives for hard cap purposes. So we just lost a little bit of money, right, in our math. So it does become harder. So now we got to go back, right? Dennis Schroeder. Believe that's the number. And so illegal. So now we need to save some money somewhere. So it's probably safe to say that it is not going to happen. KCP at 9 million probably doesn't happen. KCP at 7.5, 1, 2, 3. Still not. Is it enough? It's barely. Nope, that's not enough. So 7 million. So he's taking a pay cut. So let's just say that that's prohibitive. So let's go back to his actual 9 million. Illegal. Not happening. Okay, KCP's incentives don't matter. So we don't have to worry about that because he opted out. So I was going to say, does this mess it up more? So no. So not happening. Okay, so now we go here. Look at we're backtracking. Assume no Rondo, JaVale. Okay, so now still have an issue. Still illegal. So now KCP is down to 11. Let's do 11. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's just do 11. Okay, legal. That's with the biannual. Okay, scroll up here. Same thing. Let's go to 11. It's not going to be enough, so we got to go to 10, 500, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what we're doing is we're eating into KCP's money. And then the question here was this legal? And we get down to, this was the example where it's Kuz and it's Avery. And so we go down to 10 million. All right, so again, barely legal. Schroeder has incentives. Had to revise each table. I believe my read on Schroeder's incentives are accurate. I'm doing this kind of rushed and going off of what I see. So I just want to double check. He didn't make the finals last year. If the team plays in the finals, the NBA playoffs, so that doesn't apply. If the team wins the championship, that does not apply. If the player is named to the NBA All-Star, that doesn't apply. First, second, no. So none of these incentives, so I think my read is correct. So as you can see, the KCP number is significant, but the most significant factor is this one right here. This is, let's just copy this here. And then we're going to be done with the Lakers. All right, so this is LeBron, AD resigning, Schroeder with his incentives, accounting for incentives, Kuz, Caruso, THT, Avery out, JaVale out, full mid-level, KCP at 11, Markieff at non-bird, Dwight at non-bird, using their biannual exception, filling to the minimum with vets, Lul Deng not taken off, $400,000 under the hard cap by MLEBAE. This is a path, a potential path for the Lakers, if KCP was willing to do $11 million. A little bit more room, but you want to leave room for 10 days and things like that. All right, so that's the Lakers. Okay, so we've done the Thunder. We didn't really do the Thunder. I don't know if we're going to have a time to get to the Thunder. We're going to have to save the Thunder and do them more in depth later. So this was the question at the prompt. We've done Bucks, Kings, the Suns. The Suns we're going to have to do a little bit later in a different stream, but we're just going to take a quick peek. Phoenix Suns. This is where they were first or before. Let's include the Sarge cap hold. And chat, let me pull up the chat here, make sure I didn't lose anybody. What's out of focus for DS? Is anyone else having focus issues? Oh, Dominic has asked the question, is the Cook partial guarantee included? I have Cook traded away to a team with cap room or a trade exception for a few $1 million. So let's put, I forgot to mention that. Let's see, note, assumption that Cook $1 million guaranteed of $3 million is traded to any team with cap space or trade exception for, say, $2 million. So a team would profit $1 million to pay Cook $1 million. So if not, Lakers can stretch Cook at 333K, but that could hurt future cap room, or 2, pay Cook $1 million, and that's $1 million less to spend under a hard cap. Look through the chat real quick. We're gonna go to chat. I'm struggling to see if we can really get the Suns. Just time. We may run out of time. So let's take a look at the chat. I'm going to go back to the top, see if there's anything I missed, and then we'll see where we're at. Can I talk about Emily Ibaka and signing Harkless? That's from Savage. Could the Lakers possibly get more out of the Dennis Schroeder trade? So some people had asked, can they link the Suns trade with the Lakers trade? The answer is no, because the Suns trade is already executed. So that's that. It's not going to be a three-way. Can I talk about Harkless and Ibaka? That might be Savage. I'm going to go with Star Wars pronunciation. And let's see. So Ibaka and Harkless, you saw the numbers where it's possible they have a mid-level. It's possible they have a biannual. Just depends on what happens with KCP, Rondo, and JaVale and Cook and Avery. I hope the Lakers go after Daniel House from the Rockets. Okay. He could be on the outs because of some of his behavior in the bubble. I don't know if the Lakers want to go near that because of that. The Lakers definitely need a wing, and they need more of, to me, a bigger defensive wing. They're going to be set at guard, even if it's just Talen Horton-Tucker, who I think plays this year, Caruso, Schroeder, and KCP. Even if it's just the four of them, that's a lot. You want to add one more bigger wing who can play two? Sure. Wesley Matthews has been linked. I think that makes some sense. He's not my favorite choice, but I do understand the logic of that. He's bigger and stronger than KCP. I don't know if he's taller, but he's bigger and stronger than someone like KCP and Kuzma as far as guarding bigger wings. I don't think he has the height. I think he's a little bit older with the legs. I worry about his legs. Thank you, DS, about the salary pages. How could keeping KCP work for the Lakers cap-wise? Went into that already. I'm just going through the chat to see if there's anything we missed. All right. The guy he got traded for, a bunch of players said, okay, looking at all these notes, we've kind of covered some of this. Thank you. It's Pat for the Bobby Marks numbers. Justin James. Yep, I'm just going back. Okay. I think we're almost caught up. Can the Lakers still keep Rondo and Dwight after they sign a 3-point shooter? So to me, Matthews should be a minimum guy. Maybe biannual. Shouldn't be much more than that. Is the $9 million okay? We've answered these questions already. Again, Asman asked, for hard cap purposes, does the actual vet min apply? So the idea is that if you're paying someone 2.6 on a vet min for 1 year, their cap hold, or cap hit rather, is 1.6. And so the league actually reimburses. The player will get 2.6. The team will be reimbursed that million. I'm rounding. And so the cap number and the hard cap number is 1.6. The Lakers could buy. My understanding is the Lakers are interested in buying a second rounder, and that if they can get one in the up to the 31 to 45 range, that they'll feel they'll get as good a player as they would have gotten at 28. We'll see. So we talked about DJ Wilson and whether or not how that would break up. It's Pat had asked, can we break up the mid-level into multiple players? Of course you can. Very common. Avery might stay now. Okay, so I don't have the answer on. Avery was reported to opt out. Mark Scott says Avery was reported to opt out, and Savage says Avery may stay now. I never got a concrete answer from all the reports, other than expectation. And the expectation that Avery would opt out was some mildly surprising, but not shocking, because he stayed out of the bubble. He saw the team win. He's a different kind of guy. I just could see him. In previous streams, I said that's very possible. And JaVale, I think he's going to make more by opting in, so I think he opts in. Wouldn't they just go with 14? Would the Lakers go with 14 players? Maybe. We could fix the numbers by cutting that down to 14. Absolutely. I pushed to 15 just in case, but certainly you would save 1.6 million. So we'll put a note at the end here. Lakers can squeeze a little more by just going with 14 players. So that is true. Okay. So Chan Truong, hope I'm saying it properly. Dennis has some incentives. How does that play in here? So correct, we did that. It's Pat says, I'm personally skeptical in the Avery situation. Doubt interested teams will offer more than 5.7. It may be something like he doesn't want to play this season, and if that's the case, he would probably opt in and just take the money. But then there would be some weird issues. So maybe he has enough money and wants to do family stuff. Maybe he wants to play for someone else and looks at the team and the depth and thinks his role is lost. Some decisions aren't monetary, and just the fact that he didn't go to the bubble, he gave up money not to go to the bubble. Clearly, money is not the primary driver for Avery, which is commendable. So it becomes different. I think most evaluation, you do money as the driver, and then you start to factor in other things like role. And usually role factors into future money. So if they're going to go to a team that doesn't have a role and they're taking less money to go somewhere else, you say, well, they didn't care about the money. And the answer is actually they did. They felt like they would be in a dead-end situation, and that losing $1 million here is better because then they'll get a chance on their next contract to get more. It's just an argument. Avery could just get so Avery can get 120% raise. True. Absolutely. Mark Scott's asking that. So his previous salary. So what can Avery get real quick? Just punch up his last salary is this. Make sure you can see that. Okay. Equals that times 1.2 via non-bird. And then 5,005,350 via PO. So from that perspective, let's say the Lakers are like, we 100% want you back, and we will pay you the most we can possibly pay you if you come back, and we will give you another player option, or maybe they won't. Maybe it's just a 1 year, but you can make an extra $700,000, right? Maybe the Lakers are perfectly happy paying him 5.7. They've already agreed to that, and the player option is entirely that. I don't know. I'm just sort of speculating here. DS says, give the BAE to Dwight Howard. To me, the difference between 3-6 and 3-1 is not worth it. And if Dwight has a problem taking 3-1 instead of 3-6, that's his problem. Why eat up a mid-level exception that you might be able to use on someone else? When you have his non-bird, it's $500,000, 600, it's 550, right? To me, if I'm Dwight, I wouldn't argue over 550, but you never know. People are petty. It's certainly possible. Won't he have a new yeah, Asman is, so KCP, yeah. At some point when I was thinking about like KCP's incentives, would that matter? And then we did these new contracts, so of course it doesn't. So we reached that conclusion earlier. Will I stream on the Nets? It's Pat asking if Harden is traded. I'm going to just stream as often as I can. Depends on the viewership, depends on YouTube and how that works as far as monetization. Depends on if you guys are willing to put in a little bit of donation into the Patreon or to the Venmo, so that I can make this worth my time. As much as I love doing it, I have to accept that my time has to bring in money. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of the reality. So we're going to just experiment as often as possible, but it's going to turn out to be a math issue of how much time is it worth me doing this. I don't have the answer yet because I haven't reached that point yet with YouTube where I'm a partner. We're getting there. We're about halfway on the views, so we got to keep rolling. Let's see. It's Pat. Jacob Trubinsky asks, is it possible for Sixers to trade for Harden while adding salary, or are they hard capped? The Sixers are not hard capped at all. They can spend whatever they want, but obviously there's a tax issue of how much they want to spend. If they sign and trade in, no. If they use their mid-level, no. If they use the biannual, no. And when I say mid-level, I mean the full mid-level, so above 5.7. And then It's Pat says, I was crunching the numbers on it earlier, but it looks like they would be completely wiped out and over the hard cap, having to sign all min guys. They still managed. I think we're talking about the Lakers. Realistically, the Lakers have any free agent options from Albert Plantilla? Sure. Any free agent out there. I think Wesley Matthews is the only one that's strongly linked. I think Serge Ibaka is softly linked. I've heard he probably stays with the Raptors for a year if they pay him enough, and we'll consider the Nets. But I think Lakers are a possibility. All right, let's see. Any thoughts as a possibility of Melo to LA? I mean, they have a minimum, and if they want to add a minimum, I think with Kuzma and Markieff, no. If they bring in Serge, no. If they don't bring back Markieff, I look at Melo as a power forward. I don't think they look at him as a small forward. If they trade Kuzma, for sure, could definitely see Melo. Depends on what the Blazers want to do and what kind of bond he built there. Any chance, Javier Martinez asks, any chance Ariza gets bought out by the Rockets? Of course. That is, I didn't list Rockets in here. Rockets traded to Blazers. So I didn't do the math, but we can do that super quick. So I think we're going to skip the Suns. There weren't any questions about the Suns. So we're going to have to do this at a later date. So I'm going to put a note in the chat, not in the chat, in the sheet. Sorry, Suns and Thunder, we didn't have time to get deep into your teams. We will in the next stream if possible. There weren't enough. If I had gotten more questions on them in the chat, and if we had more time, then we would do it. But we're not. All right. So let's just do one thing real quick. This was the trade for Ariza, and we don't know. I haven't looked at the details of this as far as when it's being triggered. Houston. I didn't look at the pick situation, so I'm going to assume that it happens after. We're going to assume it's off of these numbers here, of which Ariza has how much guaranteed? And this is Sacramento, not Sacramento, Portland. Wasn't he on Sacramento at some point? 1.8. So 1.8 mil G. So the math is going to be such that if we do this minus 5, oops, what did I do wrong here? Okay. Kings need to send out at least. So if the trade is just those two players, not the Kings. Damn. Blazers. So Ariza is likely now 7,138,345 guaranteed. So if the Rockets buy him out, it would be at that number. That's all. Is that likely? I don't know. I have no idea. They need to fill players. It depends on. They need players. They need bodies. I don't know. I guess the answer is we don't know what's going to happen with James Harden. So they need a forward. They need bodies. And if they have Harden and Westbrook, then you're going to need Ariza. So I would say no if they don't make other trades. But if they blow things up and trade Harden and Westbrook and get a bunch of kids, and they have a team that's going to be junk as far as standings, then you probably buy out Ariza as well or trade him. All right, let's take a quick look. Any of the last ones in chat? One friend gave, this is from Wagner Branco. One friend gave me one idea. Cook JaVale for Aminu. Saves Orlando $11 million. I don't know why it saves Orlando $11 million. It doesn't sound right. Cook JaVale for Aminu. I like Aminu. He was hurt last year. He's not a great shooter, but he's certainly somebody who would help them defensively. You know, I'd rather them just try to sign Mo Harkless, and I think that accomplishes a similar thing. Just real quick, I don't see how they save $11 million in Orlando. But if you look at it from the perspective of JaVale McGee, and if you, in this case, we'd be 175, 100, 123. Oops. He's not enough, so they definitely have to include Cook. And if you're doing $3 million for Cook, so you don't have to. Oops. Let's do this minus 100, 123, divided. And let's do it in two lines. Divided by 1.75. So equals 5,497. Doing it wrong. 5,497,657 minus 4,100. 129,765. Give me a second. Having a little trouble with the keyboard. We're almost done here. Okay. That and then equals that times 1.75 plus 100, 123. So I'm off by 100,000. So, but you get the point. They would need to guarantee some of Cook, more than that. So let's say they only guarantee the minimum, and this is off slightly. I'm not going to chase what I did wrong by a tiny bit in the formula. But they would have to guarantee about 1.3 million. So, if that's the case, and it's 5.5, let's say that Magic take on this. Cut Cook. And I don't know why they do this, by the way. They would save 5.5 million. They wouldn't save 11 million. And if we look at the future money, maybe you're talking about the future money. So that's possible. From the perspective of this, that he does opt in, which we don't know that he does. So they would save in total over the life if he opted in. So you can argue it that they saved that amount. 21, 22 PO. 2020 save total. So if they but here's the thing is the Lakers seem at this point like they're not spending money in 2021, 2022. So that would be prohibitive. Just the possibility that he can opt in. But we don't know. We'll find out in a matter of a week if the Lakers don't care about 2021 or not. All right, let's wrap this up. DS says, I suggested BA to Howard because we were in position where the Lakers couldn't really use it anyway. So you're taking away the possibility to use the BAE the next year. So why would you do that? Throwing away an exception you can only use the biannual every other year. I don't believe the Lakers are going to be under the cap next year. If they are, then they won't have a biannual, and then it won't matter. But the fact that they don't know, and you throw away a biannual to pay Dwight an extra $500 doesn't make sense. Dwight said, this is from Azmin Pathari. I'm sure I'm butchering the names. Dwight said on some podcast today that he'd like to stay in LA because his wife plays for the Sparks and he just wanted a guaranteed contract. So who knows? Yeah, could come at the minimum. I think Markieff is more likely to want BAE to stay. Again, that's from Azmin. If you can pay him 2.9, 2.8, what was the number that we had for Markieff? 2.8. Are we gonna quibble over 800,000? Maybe. I mean, if the Lakers say we just can't do it because of all these other factors, which are legit, that they would have a hard cap, then hell no. I mean, they might be able to have a hard cap. It depends on what they do with their mid-level. Okay, so we're wrapping up. We're towards the end. It's Pat. This was Harden. I was talking about. I lost track of what you're saying. So you guys are just chatting with each other. Good. Yeah, it's Pat says a lot riding on that KCP figure. Yep, that is 100%. 100% the reality. What they pay KCP, not just in 1 year, but in many years. If he gets a multi-year deal, that's going to impact their availability to spend money in 2021, which is already tenuous if you ask me, but who knows. Wrapping it up, Mark Scott says, if I'm LA, I would want McGee as the regular season starting center. Maybe. I don't think he is needed. You do need a starting center. I don't know if investing in an older one who isn't going to play in the playoffs is the way to go. I mean, I'd almost rather a younger guy who can develop in those minutes. And then we're going to wrap up, I think. So I've got one. Yeah, we've already gone 2 hours, which is way longer than I want to go. 2 hours is kind of capping it. We've already gone over that. Corey McKinney, this is the last question. So thank you all. Before I answer the last question, thank you all. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please consider contributing to the Patreon.